This is the Equity Scottish National Committee's response to the General Secretary's explainer regarding staff restructuring within our union. Dear Paul, thanks for your statement. We were disappointed to find that it doesn't directly address any of our concerns, primarily around why you think it is acceptable to bring Northern Ireland under London staffing and to impose compulsory redundancies within a trade union a week before Christmas whilst the furlough scheme is in place. What we believe you have given us instead are numbers, jargon and management speak. You have not given a trade union response, but a marketing one. Your statement pays no heed to the political, cultural and societal aspects of the union's work in Scotland and Northern Ireland, or the specific needs of its members in these nations. We recognise the importance of numbers. We know you have to be prudent. We're freelancers, we get that. But we are also human beings. We want to hear about people. When you refer to your staff and membership in terms of metrics, resources and posts to be deleted, you dehumanise them and reduce them to numbers on a spreadsheet. And when you start dealing only in cold, dispassionate figures, then you're behaving like a conservative and a capitalist. No metric can measure the security that a member feels knowing that Lorne has their back. No metric can describe the sense of relief and empowerment when a dispute is settled in a member's favour, and there is certainly no metric to quantify the knowledge, wisdom and kind-heartedness that Lorne brings to the Glasgow office. Now, as much as we don't like to dwell on figures, we would like to raise some specific points about your numbers. You have projected a loss in excess of £600,000 for this year. You need to break that figure down to show us where the losses are generated to give us a more accurate picture. Regarding the liability of the staff pension scheme and the potential deficit increase, all pension schemes are at the mercy of the casino economy, including equities. When the stock market rises, so will the value of the pension fund. You are preempting the official valuation from the regulator next year. You claim Scotland and Northern Ireland, with 6% of the membership, receives 15% of resources, but we believe these figures are misleading. If you must reduce Scotland, Northern Ireland and its people to a series of metrics, Equity has around 50 staff, with 3 in Glasgow. This accounts for 6% of the membership and 6% of staff. Even if your figures are as you say, Scotland and Northern Ireland represent 50% of the countries that make up the United Kingdom, and 2 countries receiving 15% of resources between them doesn't sound so unreasonable, does it? It's not as simple as a headcount of members to staff. A cast visit to Mull is not the same as a cast visit to Hull. We are nations with our own parliament and assembly. Lobbying government is not within the remit of an organiser in the Midlands or the North West, for example. It is, however, work undertaken by organisers in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. Finally, amidst all your figures, an important one is missing. Equity's net assets of around £14 million. That's a substantial figure. We know it's not money in the bank, but it puts the union in a strong position when it comes to short-term losses. You tell us you do not believe it prudent to use our reserves to pay for regular expenditure, and believe that this money is to be used for the benefit of members. So the money's there, and if ever there was a rainy day, Paul, this is it. What could benefit the members in Scotland and Northern Ireland, not to mention visiting members from all over the UK, more than having Lorne Boswell in the Glasgow office fighting their corner? You assure us you are taking these measures preemptively, yet at other times you call them a last resort. You have also assured us that you and the Council are opposed to compulsory redundancies as a tool for managing the union's affairs, in accordance with a motion passed in 2003. Yet you and the Council have ignored that directive and now deem these redundancies necessary. Council are technically the staff's employers. How can they credibly fight compulsory redundancies of our members when they have imposed compulsory redundancies on their own staff? In September, you assured Council that no redundancies were being considered in the nations, yet went on to propose redundancies in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and admitted that you had made this pledge before a spending review had been completed. You promised that you would listen to the voices of the members in the nations, yet you have failed to answer questions from the national committees, and you are now ignoring a petition with over 1,700 signatures asking you directly to halt the compulsory redundancies at least until the furlough scheme is over. These worrying and significant U-turns lead us to wonder if we can trust anything you say. For example, can we believe you when you say there will be a dedicated member of staff in Northern Ireland within 5 years? Can we believe you when you say that you have intentions to grow the union's work there with no detailed strategy? Can we believe you when you tell the Northern Ireland Committee you will be talking to the remaining staff in the Glasgow office about continuing some aspects of the work in Northern Ireland, but make no mention of this to the Scottish Committee at meetings on the same day, half an hour apart? Can we believe you? We are not so sure. Mention too must be made of the 3 national councillors of Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland who had the decency to stand up for their respective nations and oppose these measures with a dignified, passionate address, only to be described by you as the only dissenting voices for having the courage to disagree with you. What is a trade union if not a dissenting voice standing up for the rights of its members in the face of injustice and unethical practices? Which brings us back to our 2 main points. Your intention to run Northern Ireland from London is partly based on your assertion that Northern Ireland is staffed from a different country already. If you think running Northern Ireland from Glasgow is the same thing as running it from London, then you do not have a clear understanding of the political or cultural landscape and how that decision looks. Finally, you refuse to acknowledge that the decision to enforce a compulsory redundancy on one of your longest serving and dedicated members of staff with over 30 years of outstanding service to members 2 weeks before Christmas when the furlough scheme is in place is cruel and unnecessary. Advertising 2 comparable roles in the same week as enforcing this redundancy only compounds that cruelty, given that Lorne is more than qualified for either. As someone who has talked openly about your own father's redundancy and who oversaw hundreds of redundancies in the steel industry, you are acutely aware of the devastating effects redundancy can have on a person's mental health, physical well-being and family relationships. Throughout all of this, you have repeated the mantra of socialism and urged us to be comradely and to stand in solidarity. These actions are not comradely or in solidarity, and they certainly aren't in the spirit of socialism. By taking these actions, every time you utter those terms, you dilute their meaning and reduce them to hollow rhetoric. We've seen the figures. We've listened to your reasons. We are not opposed to change, but these are chiels that winna ding. You have been in this position for a relatively short time and are remunerated with a very generous salary. A salary that would take most ordinary members 5 or 6 years to earn at least. You told us that the wider membership, who have suffered an excruciating year of no pay, would not find this decision cruel given the package on offer. We have asked the wider membership, and overwhelmingly they find it not only cruel but shameful. We thank you for your offer of a meeting and we look forward to discussing these matters further. In the meantime, please listen to us as we ask you again to halt this compulsory redundancy and reverse the centralisation of Northern Ireland staffing to London and make full use of the remaining months of the furlough scheme. This will give the time and funding for a full consultation with members in Scotland and Northern Ireland so that together we can look at ways to better manage the union's affairs in our nations.